Welcome, Irish fans, to this week's edition of the Joe Schmidt and Jack Swarbrick Show. On today's show, we'll talk with Notre Dame women's golf captain Talia Campbell and Assistant Athletics Director for Football Operations, Chad Klunder. Now, here are your hosts, Notre Dame captain and starting linebacker Joe Schmidt and his sidekick, Notre Dame Vice President and Director of Athletics, Jack Swarbrick.
Man, the introduction is getting a little more accurate every week.
I mean, I think the money I've been passing Jack is finally starting to pay off. I mean, the $5 at a time is starting to add up, I think.
It's going to be $10 next week.
I look forward to this segment every week, but given the guest list we got this week, I mean, this is pretty high level.
This might be I'm not saying it is. It might be the two best guests we've had on this year, and I couldn't be more excited about Chad Klunder. I really got to be honest with you. He couldn't want to not be on here less, and so he's. I can't wait to get him on here and grill him with you. It's gonna be a great time.
He's the wizard. We're getting behind the curtain here to see the guy who makes Notre Dame football work, and that'll be great. Big week. For all of us, but a big week for a Southern California kid.
Oh my God!
To face the Trojans. So, you looking forward to it?
I can't wait. This game for me. Growing up, especially growing up and really kind of starting to understand college football when Pete Carroll had just an absolute dynasty in Southern Cal. And I swear everywhere I went, it was USC flags and people making fun of me for wearing green and all of those things a kid doesn't forget. And so these are the games I really look forward to, and unfortunately, I've only been able to play in two of these games in my career. I guess the good news is we've won both of those games, so I'm trying to keep a clean slate this weekend. Against the team that I love to play the most, and I won't even hide that fact. And I'm really excited about Saturday night.
Now, do you have guys on the team that you knew from high school ball or before?
Yeah, I know a couple of the guys. There's a kid from my high school that plays corner, and then another kid from my high school that plays linebacker. And I keep up with both of them a little bit. I know their center who just got hurt. Unfortunately, right. I knew him really well. And then a few other guys. So I kind of you stay in touch. It's difficult once you're 5 years removed from high school and. Now these kids that are coming in, you didn't even go to school with, so it's a little weird, but it's still. When I'm at home, I always see the USC guys, around and at the beach or
Sure.
something, and it's a good time.
Yeah, I've only seen them play once this year. I picked the wrong game to watch. I saw the Arizona State game, and it looked like a track meet. I mean, the speed these guys have on the perimeter was really something else in that Arizona State game. So they must present a different challenge than anyone we faced this year.
Definitely, and I'm not taking anything away from the people we've faced this year, but USC has unique talent at the skill positions, really every skill position. They have a stable of running backs, and USC is really known for that. I played against one of them in high school, and they're all extremely talented. And then they have a quarterback who was, he's got 15 touchdowns and 3 interceptions. He was in the Heisman conversation. He's a very, very good player. And then they have some uniquely talented receivers as well. So it's kind of like pick your poison with them. They can kind of play a video game with any one of their skill players at any time during the football game. So. It presents a unique challenge for I've said unique like 5 times now. It presents an interesting challenge for a defensive coordinator and a defensive scheme to kind of stop all of those different weapons at one time.
A lot of talk, as there always is this week, about the Navy hangover. Does that even compound the problem for you to go from a week where your focus is so different than it'll be this week in terms of defensive scheme?
I don't think so, and the reason I don't think so is because we spent so much time trying to figure out how best to recover from a week like Navy. You spend the entire week leading into Navy just doing all triple option. You're working in the same space that you always work in. So if you're normally a quarterback to a fullback and a quarterback player, you're working always within this little quadrant, and then the guys outside are working in this quadrant. So now you just have to get used to playing within the entire scope of the game again. And I think Coach Kelly and Coach Van Gorder and the rest of the staff have done a great job of kind of reintroducing us to the game, which it sounds funny after a week, but they've gotten us our feet back wet, and we've done a lot of 11-on-11 competitive stuff, and I think we're back into the flow and ready to play a football game that's normal for nowadays.
Yeah, well, being in practice yesterday, you were getting pretty deep on some pass drops there, I noticed. And so that's a different dynamic than preparing for Navy game.
Hey, I think they saw me in my pedal and the way that I drop, and they just had to keep me back there. Coach Light was saying all good things, as you can imagine, about my athleticism.
Future safety Joe Schmidt here.
Maybe current with the way I look. I can't decide.
We sort of alerted people last week to the fact that Navy's not Georgia Tech. That the fundamental difference is that they do such a great job with scheme and formation, and no matter what you do, you're going to get looks from Navy you haven't seen before. Right. An opening drive, right. We got looks from Navy we hadn't seen in 6 years. Right. In fact, I watched some of that tape with the coaches on Sunday morning, and you just got to adjust on the fly when that happens, right?
Yeah, it was, and that's what makes it great about our staff and our players. I think that we were able to adjust on the fly, and I remember sitting, vividly. I remember Thursday in a meeting with Coach Van Gorder, looking at him and saying, what are they going to do to us to try to defeat this scheme? Because we thought, we had an answer versus Georgia Tech, and we knew that they were going to do something. And sure enough, they had an answer, and we didn't know what they were going to do. And it kind of took, all of the minds, coming together and making an adjustment there, and then coming at, starting to play the rest of the game a little bit better. But that's what's great about our staff and our players. We're able to communicate in the same language and kind of fix problems immediately. So
I got to tell you, I see this all the time. I just love the dynamic at halftime. So first of all, Coach Van Gorder comes in very sort of on point and businesslike, and makes an adjustment to try and deal with the fullback, who's running more outside, than sort of our scheme anticipated. And talks about what we're going to do in terms of slanting the lineman and what the call is going to be for that, and so the whole plan's there. And then we're walking out, and two players come up to you and want to make sure they understand it. And so on the walk out to the field, you're telling them what the call is going to be and how you're going to do it. So that the sort of, the coach on the field notion that is always attached to you really plays out there. I mean, you've got to translate what you understand Coach Van Gorder wants us to do, because not everybody gets it during that 3-minute halftime introduction to it.
You really are. In those halftime meetings, you're drinking through a fire hose. He's giving you all the information he needs you to have for the next 30 minutes, and it's really quick. So I'm glad that those guys came up to me then and not during the play, which has happened in the past, and that can be a little frantic. But really, that's what I try to do, and that's the role that I've tried to take on is somebody that can kind of relay the messages in an easily understood way to how I would think about it, being less developed in my football acumen than the coaches. So that's what I tried to do, and I think I did a decent job with my response. I don't know, you could probably tell me it better than I. But really that's what I try to be there for the guys in any way that I can, and thankfully for us it worked out on this last Saturday.
Yeah, it sure did. It was a game full of great performances and a lot of great plays. But I said this to you in the locker room afterwards. That game was so cool to me, because Jarrett Grace was out there running around making plays.
Gosh, that was incredible, and I was so happy when he ran out there and for the first time really playing with the one defense again, and his hair was on fire, and he was making plays, and we're talking and communicating, and the look on his face was just ecstatic. It was so happy, and I was so happy to be out there with him to share that moment, and he played his butt off. He absolutely did. He made some really incredible plays, and I just couldn't be happier for him. He's my roommate, my best friend, and I'm so happy for him.
Yeah, and almost 2 years to the day.
Yeah.
Right? And I don't know that I've ever been around somebody who who was able to remain more positive, stay more connected to the team, not get down. You know, there were moments where he was down, of course, especially with the second surgery. But you know, in so many ways, he embodies what the program's about.
Yeah, and that's who he is as a person. You know, Jarrett's a strong-willed. You know, he's a spiritual guy. He's someone who cares deeply about the guy next to him and about this team and this university. And he really he never gave up, and that was it was so easy. At so many times they told him, you know, you might not walk again, or you might not run again, or you might not be the same player again, or whatever they threw at him in his face. He just swatted it away and kept trugging right through, and it was really great for me to see, and it was something that I used myself in my recovery, and I saw, well, I was like, all right, if Jarrett's doing this now, you know, when I was coming, you know, through the meat of my recovery, Jarrett got a second surgery. And so it was like, if Jarrett can do this, like, there's no reason I should be complaining at all about my circumstance. And I just kind of attacked it in the same way that I had seen him do. And then once he was back out there playing, you know, with while I was recovering, I coached him the same way he coached me. And you know, that he taught me a lot about how to be there for someone, and a lot about how to attack, you know, adversity. So I'm forever thankful for that. I'm blessed to have him, you know, as a part of my life. He really is a special human.
He absolutely is. You know, you guys, after the first couple of series, really became a force in that game. And I thought, you know, other than a few fullback runs there towards the end of the first half, controlled it well. Good day for the offense too. A lot of great performances. But one play I got to ask you about, because I know you've seen the film of it, but that 11-yard run CJ had for a touchdown where, I mean, you can't see anything, right? I mean, it's got to be instinct. It's got to be feel. Everybody on the defense touched him, but he still scored.
I don't know how he does that. And it's funny because I remember that play, and I think I watched it on the field, and I remember turning to someone. I can't remember who it was, but I just turned to him, and I was like, wow, like, I'm so glad he's on our team. Like, if he was on the opposing team, he would be an absolute nightmare. He's fast, he's patient, and when he gets into a hole, it doesn't matter how many guys you have there. Sometimes you just can't stop him, and it's amazing to watch. You know, someone with that kind of talent and with those traits to kind of work out there in the field, and he does such a good job of it. And that play was a perfect example of just everything that he brings, you know, a will, you know, a tenacity, ability to break tackles, speed, you know, athleticism. It's really great to see him, you know, kind of work within our offense.
He'd be pretty good if he had any experience at the position.
Yeah, right. Seriously. He's learning on the fly. He just goes out there, they hand on the ball, and they say, run to the end zone, and he does it. It's innate.
Well, it was a great win over a rival that we have so much respect for, and now on to another rival that such a great history between the two schools, and I know it'll be a great game, so we're looking forward to it. Good luck this weekend. Now let's get on to these super guests.
Yeah, let's get on to them.